guys, and welcome back to another episode of Federico Talks Watches. Today, I'm going to talk about watch complications, particularly the ones that I find the most useful. Obviously, guys, this is based on my opinion, but I'm curious to see what you think. And of course, before we get started, customary wristwatch check. Today I'm wearing the Girard Perregaux Laureato Evo 3 Moonphase. A watch that I'm absolutely in love with. Love it to death. And of course, guys, go check out delraywatch.com. Bunch of new watches in stock. Green, not dial, but crystal. Green crystal Milgauss. Omega Sapphire Sandwich. A beautiful vintage Longines well under $1,000. Amongst others. On delraywatch.com. Link in the description below. So yeah, guys, watch complications. What is a complication? That is something more than just the time. Now, the most basic complication is the date. Very, very useful, but for this argument's sake, I'm going to skip over that. There are also, however, some complications which I find completely useless. Moonphase, one of my favorites, completely useless. Equation of time, sidereal time, also completely useless. Split-second chrono, some people find it very, very useful. Not me. So I've compiled a list of 5 complications that I think are very useful in day-to-day life. Now, guys, I'm fully aware that we all have our phones today, but it's nice to be able to take a quick glance at your watch and have it do something more useful than just tell the time. The first one is pretty obvious. Date. The day and the date. Obviously very classic on Rolex. You can get it on Omega Aqua timers. A few Speedmasters have it. Almost every brand has a day-date variant, and there you can tell the day of the week and the date. In a business setting, this could be very, very useful. Not to mention, it doesn't make service all that much harder because it's just a second disc added in. There are ETA variants, there's in-house variants, but a day date is a great way to add complication that is useful. Second one is a complication that I feel was a lot more common back in the day and now has fallen out of favor a little bit. And that is the alarm. Guys, an alarm is awesome. I use my iPhone alarm 3, 4, 5 times a day, at least once to wake up. Well, now you can set it on your watch. Jaeger makes a great alarm. Vulcain make great alarms. Maurice Lacroix. A lot of things with the A-shield movement. An alarm is a useful complication. Yes, it makes an obnoxious ringing sound, but I think it's significantly more charming than an iPhone alarm. Not to mention, you keep the very clean look of the watch face because usually it's just on a rotating disc, so it doesn't make your watch look overly complicated. Third is one of my favorite complications, and one I use the most. GMT, Greenwich Mean Time. It could also be a world time as well, even though that is slightly different. Basically, the ability to track additional time zones. I have a lot of family in Spain, which is 6 hours ahead. I travel a lot all over the world, as often as I can, at least, because that is my passion. And it's great to be able to track a second time zone. You can do it as simply with a GMT, just an extra hand for one extra time zone. Some of them have rotating bezels, so you can have 2 extra time zones, and some have world times where you can, track many, 24, 36 time zones. Very, very useful. A complication that, has some practicality today. Fourth is one that is a complication you may be able to see or you may not be able to see. And that is a longer power reserve. Most watches have a 38 to 42 hour power reserve. Nowadays, we're getting more common 60-hour power reserves, but there are some watches like the IWC Portuguese, the H. Moser Endeavor, amongst others, the IWC Big Pilot, which I have for sale, by the way, which have 7 and 8 day power reserves. A great way to kind of fully wind your watch, wear it, and then if you're not going to wear it for the whole week and maybe put it back on the weekend, you don't have to reset the time. Some of them have power reserve indicators, some of them don't. But a very useful complication if you don't like to fiddle with your watch. And actually, quite shockingly enough, I wear my Moser a lot on the weekends because for work, I'm not very formal, but sometimes I go to a nice dinner on the weekend, and it's still wound from the previous weekend. So that puts a smile on my face kind of every time. But a long power reserve is very, very practical. And last is one that I struggled with a little bit, because it's a complication I honestly very rarely use, but I can absolutely see its usefulness. And that is a chronograph. I have one on my Speedmaster, my Breitling, the most famous chronograph, possibly Daytona, IWC Portuguese is there. Basically, all it is a stopwatch where you can time elapsed time. I wanted to put regatta timer in there instead, which is a countdown timer, but they're usually a pain in the butt to set, and they confuse people. But a chronograph, even though I personally don't use one very often, in fact, probably less than 3 or 4 times a year for an actual purpose. I mean, I play with them, but I rarely use it for an actual purpose. I can totally see how someone may use that to time something in the kitchen or elapse time, maybe while traveling. Absolutely has use, even though not particularly for me. Now, guys, there's a bunch of other complications that are useful. Perpetual calendars, annual calendars. I don't think anybody's going to call a tourbillon useful, but, that's debatable as well. But these are the 5 watch complications that I find the most useful. And I'd love to know what you think in the comment section below, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me, or if you think I missed something out. Let me know. Guys, thank you so much for sticking around for another episode of Federico Talks Watches. Please don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it. It really does help. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any content. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.